Two, one. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Eurocast. Today, we'll be talking about news. There was. I didn't know that World War III was almost about going to start when I ended the podcast, but coverage that before. So right now, what we'll be doing is covering the news first. Then we'll go back to the coverage of our region Zoom thing. So we want to talk about more EU regions, basically. We still have the whole region of Lower Silesia to get in. So my region, and I still have lots of Kenya region to go into. But yeah. So for now, maybe the first part and not of the... Maybe, before I got to the articles, talk about the whole Iran-Israel thing. So, I think is going on is basically they're exchanging fire. However, right now Iran decided to not respond to that. So this might be the end of it. But at the same time, Israel said that they are not going to respond to that, and they did. So.
So basically, the main deterrent is obviously the fact that Israel is an ally to the USA, but Iran, for Iran to back down so fast on their previous policy, that is a bit strange. Maybe it was just posturing, but I think it might be a little more than that behind.
Yes. Out. So far as the current thing goes, yeah, I think that might be the end of it. So when it comes to the current stage, started with Israel basically bombarding the embassy or a consulate in Jordan. That was definitely something that would provoke a response. And honestly, I would say that the amount of that response is something that was weird. Like, I wouldn't expect that. Never.
That is true. The rhetoric used by the Armenian leader up until now didn't really point toward the outcome as it is, but I believe that if you were to look at Iran's previous interaction with Israel prior to this, they always follow a pattern of basically trying to tiptoe around the red line, trying to figure out the limits or how far they can push. Not really dissimilar to Putin before the invasion. So I think they'll be a bit smarter than we think, hopefully, about the whole situation.
Yeah, it's a pattern of escalating to de-escalate, basically. Like, they always escalate to the brink of war, and at the end of thing, they always back down. And I'm not only talking about Iran, I'm talking about both sides. Like, both sides at the end of things always try to de-escalate. I don't think it's possible for long term to be happy with each other, honestly. A good marriage.
No.
Like,
No.
Iran is backing so many militias against Israel in that region that point, it's hard to pinpoint the first thing. Like I said, the first thing was bombing Jordanian embassy, but no, that wasn't the first thing. That was just only the first thing in this exchange, right? And everything that happened before that, you could say that they were prepared, like Houthis launched their missiles. And, the thing that I think is most crazy is the interception rate of those. 99%, which is
Yeah.
just insane. And by the way, so this is your government that paid 1 billion interceptors. There were some right-wing politicians that argued that interceptors are not effective enough. What you can say to that?
I don't think I have the expertise required to speak on that, honestly. I mean, the U.S. government does what the U.S. government does, and I mean, I know a lot about geopolitics. I'm not going to pretend to be like a strategical expert on it, though.
Yeah, that's true, but you know, at the same time, say this is a money well spent, because you know those interceptors need to be tested, right? And where else would you put them to be tested?
Oh yeah, the U.S. military will always jump on the opportunity to give any sort of platform real like combat experience and testing.
Are they going to test them by proxy of their allies, or is it going to be a direct defensive intervention?
Basically, they will test it by their allies usually. This is what was happening all the time. Except for nuclear weapons, for obvious reasons. But when it comes to any other technology, US was always generous to give it to their allies to test it themselves, so they don't have to do it themselves. So, not something that was that generous in the hindsight. But yeah, that's definitely a good thing to do, because then, you know, it's working, right? You cannot just let your national security go untested.
Absolutely not. Especially when you have basically strategic interest in the region and you've got a geopolitical role to maintain, especially in the case of America. So I'm not quite surprised. I'm not really surprised that they adopted their stance as it is.
Yeah, and honestly, I'm very surprised with you know, the 99% figure. You know, there were some videos that were sent during that. I did fall asleep monitoring the situation because it just happened just right after the podcast. So I sleep in my chair. But, you know, there were videos that were like, oh, hey, look, they did hit Israel. And I was like, no, wait for confirmations. Because, you know, usually the defense systems won't intercept something that's going to hit like the desert anyway. And it counts as a valid interception as well, because it didn't destroy anything of value, right? So, yeah, and it turns out I was right. So there's that.
So basically, the interceptors are placed right along the border, and in any case, basically the entire. If there was to be an exchange between Iran and Israel, there will be decoy involved, of course, but the detectors that are placed along the border would be able to pick it up in time, hopefully. And
I mean, honestly, when it comes to Israel, you cannot really say along the border, because Israel is so. That's actually true for most of the systems. Like, usually, yes, you want to place the interceptors like along your border for the shortest like time of flight. That gives them more energy, that gives them more availability.
yeah,
But at the same time, you know, when it comes to radars, those radars were provided by the US. Like, the US did monitor it. From Turkey, from Saudi Arabia, we don't know, but that's an educated guess. That probably they did. So, yeah, and I would even disagree that this is just a matter of pulling enough steel and fire in the air to make it possible for anything to get through, by the way. like I would disagree about that point. It's not so easy. Remember that you don't only have the spatial domain when it comes to defense of air, you also have the time domain. So you need to put something in the time and space where it can actually hit something. It's very precise. It's way different. Like, sure, if this is a land invasion, you can just spike everything along your border and just wait. It's not something that you can do with rockets. You need to put something precisely in the area that will be actually something that the interceptor can work with. Most of the interceptors that we currently have are designed to collide directly. This is shooting a bullet with another bullet.
Oh, yeah, that's a game of basically precision. But you have to, when you put it like that, with that analogy, I figure out that you have more or so to anticipate the potential trajectory of a projectile rather than to try to meet it head on the fly. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
with Iron Dome, even Iron Dome maneuvers their interceptors to actually collide with something head on to minimize the energy, like the resulting energy of the impact. So the shrapnel falls directly down. It's not so easy. It's very, very hard problem to solve, really. You can only solve it with enough computation. Like, you need fast computers to calculate that, obviously.
Obviously.
And yes, I would say I am very comfortable with testing that against Russia's hypersonic missiles, especially since they didn't really show out any hypersonic weapons. Like, come on, Kinzhal is hypersonic only by name. Like,
Yeah.
sure, it's hypersonic. Most of the missiles are.
Fake advertising when it comes to Russia, as usual. But
Yeah, fortunately, they didn't export this shit because some people would need a refund.
yeah. I mean, they wouldn't be dumb enough to do it, I think. I think because we've been saying that from the beginning of the war, so yeah. Mm. Where does Iran get their weapons from? Is it like Russia still or China?
No, Iran isn't getting their weapons from Russia anymore. This would be money wasted.
Yeah, most definitely, especially now.
So, like they're developing their shit domestically, and this works, honestly, if you think about that. Come on, Shahed drones, they are pretty good for what they are. I mean, you need to waste lots of money for the interceptors. This is an economic weapon, more than anything. Like, they do damage in Ukraine, but try using them against Poland. You wouldn't have such success. I mean, you would have success in that Poland would need to waste their interceptors on a projectile that's traveling by its own. Low velocity. Low velocity things are easier to intercept.
Obviously.
The thing with hypersonics is that not only they are high velocity, they dive onto you. They are basically coming to the top of the atmosphere and are diving down and basically trading their height for speed. And then they are working with that to basically attack you from angle you don't really expect. Like, you can maneuver them from any angle that can make it to avoid radars, right?
In the case of an exchange between Israel and Iran, because that's a topic, would there really need to be a dive out of the atmosphere because they're so close to each other when you look at a map?
Yeah, that's the questionable stuff. I don't think there needs to be one, but I think like their missiles that they used against Israel would need that. that's a very large possibility. Like, to just increase their speed, frankly. Make it harder to shoot down. But, the extra-atmospheric intercept here, yeah, if we believe that video, that definitely did happen. It was extra-atmospheric, I can tell you that much. The pattern of the plume of ionized plasma that did come out of it definitely looks like extra-atmospheric thing. So I would believe that part. I think this is just those untold stories because, we have people that are like on both ends. We have people that are like, hey, our, ballistic missile defense, when it comes to Americans, ballistic missile defense, it doesn't work. Come on, bow down to Russia. Then there are other people that are like, no, it works exactly as we intended. It works great, so we don't have to fear Russia anymore. No. Those types of things are strategic. Like, this is a strategic deterrent. Basically, we won't know if it works until Russia fires it. And when Russia fires it, it will be the end of the world.
Yeah.
That's
there's
the
no turning
issue.
back. There is no turning back at all. Because you can plan in the planning room as much as you want. You can be prepared for a real-time situation. So, yeah.
Yeah, and
Abs-
let me get back to what you said about France and basically that French general. I mean, probably I said that. I don't remember.
De Gaulle?
Yeah, like the goal is that we are great friends. And we are such great friends that we should never fire at each other. Because if we do, oh man, some of the missiles we sent will pass. And they will be the devastation you would never see.
Yes, I can absolutely see that. That I haven't heard that quote from De Gaulle, but I can totally see him say that.
Exactly. I don't think this was the goal, but I think this is a great summarization by that. Like Star Wars initiative that Reagan basically signed, or this was Nixon, I think. Yeah, I think this was Nixon anymore.
Yeah,
The whole point of that is that the issue with this thing is that you will never know if it's successful up until you use that. And when you use that, it's too late.
yeah, and that's the worst case scenario to have to use it. The ideal would be, the ideal would be to have a weapon that is intimidating enough that you don't have to use it, or you only have to use it once. But if you only have to use it one time,
Yeah, like you will ever use those weapons one time. Nothing more. And that's the issue with, testing interceptors for that, because you just don't have available friends. That's it. Nobody ever shoots ICBM at you for no fucking reason.
no, not at all. Not at all. But yeah, frankly, those are the weapons of the last resort. So any discourse that revolves around people relying on them not working or working too well are fruitless, in my opinion, because the the idea of them is what makes the world work, and nobody really wants to have to rely on more than the reputation of these weapons. So trying to make a politics work around their actual use is fruitless.
Yeah, exactly. So that, because some people just think that, oh, we have an issue. No. It will just minimize the impact. Yeah, by the way, weird sort. That US House of Representatives approved the aid package for Ukraine. So this is an Estonian side. This is from I'm sorry. This is the best I can do.
From an Estonian side?
Yeah, this is an Estonian
I
side.
have American sources.
Oh, yeah.
Please send it.
Yeah, send it, Peter.
Yep. 5 seconds here.
I think this is actually great that package is intended for you. And yeah, kind of scary. Because if Ukraine falls, we don't get another.
No.
Basically, the Ukraine is the only thing that we have can show people, hey, we are stopping Russia, and we are doing it successfully. This is our only example that we have.
Yeah,
If we do it successfully, Russia will never try this again.
I gotta say, I was worried as an American. Basically, it was being held hostage by the Speaker of the House because the far right wing of the Republican Party threatened to oust him. So what ended up having to happen is we, the Democrats, we had to make a deal with the Republicans where if Mike Johnson passed the aid, the Democrats would help keep him in power. I don't like Mike Johnson one bit, but it was honestly way more important for Ukraine to get these weapons and this aid than it would be to oust the Republican speaker. So we're going to deal with Mike Johnson a little bit longer, and it's totally worth it if Ukraine gets the help they need to win this war.
Agree. I don't like that compromise at first, but when I think about this, I agree. This is a good thing to do. Like, I want the devil that I know.
Well, yeah, and I don't know if you were aware of what the search for a House Speaker was like after they ousted Kevin McCarthy. It took them several days or weeks, I think, and the Republicans just did not have their stuff together. It was just an absolutely insane amount of dithering about without any Speaker of the House until they finally cobbled together enough unity on the Republican side to vote in Mike Johnson. Now, if they were to lose Mike Johnson, like say Marjorie Taylor Greene actually went through with her threat and got Johnson removed, we probably would not have a functioning House for weeks or even months, which is unprecedented, but it's just the U.S. Congress is that divided right now.
So basically, it was a standoff, basically.
It was a standoff, and essentially it's just the Democrats were like, look, people are dying in Ukraine. We are able to stop Russia without risking any sort of American lives. It's a good geopolitical deal for the United States, and the Democrats recognize this, and over half of the Republicans recognized it. It was just that holdout group, and so essentially they crossed the aisles, and the Democrats and the Republicans united against the weird far-right faction of the Republicans to get this done.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically the issue that I have with this far-right faction that where they would change Trump's diapers. They could, they would race to that.
Yeah, they're
at least be independent, you know?
Yeah, what's funny is MTG, she's the one that ran unopposed. She's the one that was going off about Jewish space lasers. She's the really dumb one. Earlier in a House meeting, they had the foremost scholar of the Ukrainian history in North America there, and she went off about Russia and Transnistria, and I can't help but wonder what a small-time representative from Georgia knows about Transnistria. I'm starting to think that she's getting fed lines from somewhere.
Oh, that would be
Only
totally
now?
fine.
Oh no! Oh no! It's so unexpected, man. Honestly, don't know what to say.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, I would be sad.
Everybody knew, but it's now like more blatant.
Especially since, like, come on, Transnistria. I have lots of friends fucking here in Poland that don't know anything about that. Anything. Never been to, don't know what it's about. It's just Moldova.
See, what's funny is she didn't even call it the right name. She called it Transcarpathia or something.
Oh, she's talking in Putin speak right now. Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so she probably was talking about. I think she messed up, of course. But Transcarpathia is a region of Ukraine, which, by the way, has no secessionists. They don't want to secede tendencies.
Mhm.
Yeah, she drew a parallel between the two. I would have to go look at the full House meeting again, but it was just the little clip I saw. It was the foremost scholar on Ukraine basically correcting her ass in front of the entire House of Representatives, and it was glorious.
Yeah, I can absolutely imagine how that would have happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, at this point, Putin Muppets are like in every country now, in every democracy in the West. So I'm not surprised that you've got someone in the house doing this type of stuff.
Well, she went and moved to the only reason she's in the House to begin with is because she went and moved to a district and then ran unopposed. Nobody fought her. She was on her own ticket, so she just automatically got in.
Oh,
Yeah, and now she has opposition. So let's hope this actually kicks in and now she won't be anything.
Yeah, I mean, now that the Democrats are saying they're not going to kick Mike Johnson out, she really can't do much. She's going to try to force a vote to kick him out, but it's not going to pass, and she's just going to go and stomp and cry in the corner and go off about, oh, you know, the deep state, oh, the Democrats and the Jews are controlling everything, just whatever
she's gonna go.
conspiracy of the
Yeah.
week.
She's
You
gonna
know-
go back to posting selfies on Confederate monuments again.
And
Yeah.
apparently having sex with random people on.
Oh, I didn't hear about that one. I know Lauren Boebert, basically her other stupid twin in Colorado, was caught on camera jerking off her boyfriend in a movie theater. So that was funny to watch.
That was her
Ooh.
twin?
Not
just joking?
literally. I joke. Lauren Boebert, they're not related, but Lauren Boebert is a rep from Colorado, and she
Yep.
is I say twin because she's the exact same brand of stupid that Marjorie Taylor Greene is.
Oh, okay, I catch you now. Yeah, basically, you know, I would laugh about US, like how much, say, has allowed Russian agents to basically openly be in the government positions or the House of Representatives. But I can't do that because I'm Polish, so.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that would
well-
be the last place where that would happen.
Well, it's incredibly easy to take any, because Republican voters tend to be like the poorer rural voters. It's incredibly easy to weaponize somebody else's suffering through propaganda, and it's very, very tempting. Like, say you're a poor guy from Kentucky or something, and you're poor, you can't afford anything, gas is expensive. Instead of it somehow being the fault of the region you're in, you should go move for better jobs. One day a guy comes along and says, no, none of this is your fault. It's the fault of the immigrants. It's the fault of the president. We've got, oh my God, there are so many Mexicans running through the border and they're taking all our jobs and taking all our housing. And then when these people have an excuse to blame the shitty state of their lives on something other than themselves, it's a very, very powerful thing, and it's very tempting to take that path, to take that viewpoint in life.
I've got a question, specifically for you though, Peter. When you talk about basically the rural Republican voters, these people generally they hold those views, and it's safe to assume that they're very much pro-Russia, the average GOP voter today.
I wouldn't say they're pro-Russia. It's more so, I mean, it's an incredibly hard point to fight from the Republicans, but they basically say, why are we giving all this money to people abroad when we've got problems at home? And that's a very powerful point to make. And it's because these people, they don't have a grasp or understanding of geopolitics. They can't think that far in the future. All they can think about is, oh my God, the price of gas just went up, or oh my God, the government's taking more taxes out of my
Yeah,
salary
I
each
hate
month.
socialism, or whatever it's called, but government needs to fix the price of fuel, possibly by subsidizing it.
Well, and we're more than capable. The United States is more than capable of producing its own. It's just the markets need time to adjust, and really, it's hard to.
Yeah, by the time it adjusts,
yeah, it's hard to deal with people when all they know, their daily reality is, okay, how much does it cost to fill up my tank to get to work? And then you look and, oh no, the price of gas is up by 10 cents, more than it was yesterday. Oh my God, the economy's so bad. The economy could be doing stellar. We've got record unemployment under Biden, and the actual real wage, wage adjusted to inflation and cost of living has been steadily going up. But people out in the rural areas that don't have well-paying jobs, they don't see that. Instead, they see what is basically a national market, the gas. The national market for the gas is rising, but their wages aren't, because there's no economic growth in their areas. So it is very true on a technical sense that these people are feeling the squeeze, but they're blaming the wrong people. It more so has to do with the area they're in and the lack of opportunity. And
so
Speaking
there's a
of-
disconnect.
Yeah, there's a big disconnect, because it's when you're the average American, it's very easy to just look at your daily life and not look in the future. It's very hard for some guy from Kentucky to imagine, Europe in another war and America having to step in or something because Ukraine fell. It's
Speaking
very
of,
hard for them to have that forward thinking.
there is a very good picture that I've seen recently about how bad government mismanagement can be. And this is that Poland of all places, is producing more oil, of course, for their domestic production, than Yemen. Yemen, which is loaded with oil. No?
Yeah, it is.
I did not know that.
Yeah, I did not know that as well up until this week, but funny thing, right?
I mean, right now Yemen isn't doing too well because they're in the conflict with Saudi Arabia, so that wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, if you're a corrupt autocracy, generally you won't have a lot of affinity with efficient bureaucracy, because everyone is corrupt and looking to fill their pockets. But Poland, it's working in a completely different context with completely different neighbors, so that will totally make sense.
Yep. So, yeah, this is a great example.
So yeah, Peter, I wanted to ask you about specifically, there's a difference between I think the Republican of today that are basically pro-Trump and are a significant number, and the Republican of, for example, the Reagan and Nixon era, because those people were still quite anti-Russia still.
Yeah, well, really, the disconnect started to happen. I would say the Republican Party as we know it was created once Reagan or Nixon took office, because we got, Reaganomics and the war on drugs, and it very
Yeah,
much Republicans turned from the party of responsible spending, which is something that appeals to a lot of people.
yeah.
They went from that to the party of, old crotchety boomers that don't want anything to change ever. And when it comes to Russia specifically, unfortunately, since a lot of these Republicans, they tend to be like more traditional kind of Americans, they also have the more traditional kind of American views, and one of those views is, the traditional view of masculinity. I mean, we have these stupid culture war debates in the US all the time, and the one of the big things that Republicans like, it's really funny. The Republicans will be homophobic or anti-gay, but then they'll also make photoshops of Trump with like a six-pack and like bulging muscles and say, oh my God, he is our God. He's going to beat Biden. And you can't help but see the irony in people that don't like the gays making the most homoerotic art of their president possible.
Even more ironic than that, I saw some guy, some Republican guy, I believe with glasses. He was exposed for doing drugs in some random city, and I believe I saw multiple guys from the from the GOP doing this. So the homophobic rhetoric is really funny to me when you put it in this way.
Yeah, and to connect it back to the traditional like American values thing, what I was getting at with the whole like Photoshop of Trump being ripped is Republicans tend to hold a traditional notion of masculinity in very, very high regard, and unfortunately, all the fucking Republicans know about Putin is, oh, he's the shirtless Russian president that rides bears and does martial arts. They don't care. Their ideal of a leader is somebody who's a bully, somebody who's that traditional masculinity, oh, I do what I want kind of thing. And that's why Trump appeals to them so much. And Trump and Putin, two
Trump
very, very
is the
similar
farthest
personalities.
man when it comes to traditional masculinity that I can name. He's the furthest from it. He shits in a diaper. He's 80. And he believes that physical activity is detrimental to you.
Yeah.
It's because their traditional view of a masculine man is a bully, and Trump and Putin fit that well, and they think a leader needs to be, quote, strong, but their ideal of strong is being able to insult your opponents effectively, or to not ever consider your opponent's viewpoint. Basically, a simpleton. That's their view of a good leader, and unfortunately, Putin fits that. And so, when they think a good leader is strong, and what they see is, oh, Putin is strong, they equate strong with a good leader.
Yeah, and
so,
to be clear, I'm very traditional, honestly. Like, I'm a guy that provides. I don't see issues with it. I don't see any issues with it. But Trump is so far detached from that reality.
oh yeah.
I just don't get it. I would love for it to be more like a responsibility to my family, like internal. Then anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
Absolutely.
a big part of why Trump won is who the Democrats put forward. I mean, Bernie technically won the primary, but the Democrats really didn't want Bernie to run, and so they substituted Bernie with Hillary, and Hillary went and called all the Republicans a basket of deplorables, basically undesirables, people you don't want in society. And if you're trying to get the independent voters, the more conservative voters, to cross the aisle and vote for you, that's not it. You don't call anybody who disagrees with you deplorable. You need to always look at even if you think the opposing view is utter horseshit, you still need to recognize it with respect and defeat that view in proper debate. You don't just write all the people off who don't agree with you as deplorables. That really energized the Republican base, and I think that's what handed Trump the 2016 victory.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of hard that when your opponent says that you're literally eating children.
Well, I never said to legitimize it. There's a difference between what the opponent says versus what the people that are generally on that side of the aisle say. Because even if Trump spouts some kind of moronic bullshit, it doesn't necessarily mean that Trump represents all Republicans. That's that shade of nuance you have to see, because even somebody might just completely disagree with Trump on everything but still vote for him because of his economic policy or fiscal policy, for example. And there's really that, if you want people to cross over from the other side, if you want to get the independents, the centrists, the people who only lean, you can't blanket stereotype anybody on the conservative side or anybody on the liberal side as thinking a certain way, because that denies them their individuality and really just does not make you liked.
Yeah, and I've seen an impossible that conspiracy theories like QAnon basically dehumanize everyone that is opposed to what Trump is doing, and by so much that you can't really recover from it if you acknowledge that, if you try to discuss this on the level. And they see that as an admission of some guilt, which is not the case. You're just allowed to not do that if you don't believe that this conversation is legitimate. And honestly, that's the thing that I believe that is mostly holding off, like the fact that it became so mainstream. It's such an issue. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really do anything with that. If it becomes mainstream, it's over. Because everything you do will be an admission of guilt in their eyes.
Yeah, well, it's about really the if you I guess the best way to put this is, when people feel recognized, people feel validated, they're more likely to listen to you. And I don't think that recognizing the other person's viewpoint is always necessarily taken as an admission of guilt. I think it shows compromise. It basically, what people on the fringe will only grow if their viewpoints aren't accepted, because they're like, okay, well, fuck this, I'm out of the mainstream bubble, because everybody in the mainstream bubble hates me. I'm going to stick to my own information bubble, my own little tight-knit group. And then so it's just an information feedback loop that leads to more and more radicalization. But if you recognize these people before they go too radical, it really, it kind of stops that momentum in its tracks. Like, I think Denmark's a great example. And I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this, this is just an example of it working in practice. When the left party, there was a huge far-right party that was gaining momentum because of the migration issue in Denmark, and instead of decrying all the far-right people as racists or, fascists or whatever, the left party, the one that was in charge, actually went and recognized, some of their viewpoints and kind of conceded and compromised on policy to make moves towards addressing their concerns. And then what ended up happening is the far right party ended up evaporating support overnight, and sane governance was allowed to remain. They just made a compromise on migration policy, and I think that's how a democracy should work.
It's a hard topic. Honestly, let's cover it some other time.
Of course.
Like, I want to say so much about that. We won't with this. It still has Oxtenia to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if I just to sum it up, I think recognition of fringe viewpoints and defeating them with actual logic rather than setting them aside, I think is healthier for democracy, and I will leave it at that.
I will also leave it at that. I quite agree, which might be controversial.
Yeah, let's not go down quite another rabbit hole. So, yeah, we were doing a zoom in EU regions on the previous episode. Previously, we had Snore talk about the Dutch regions. I don't quite remember the name, so I have to apologize.
No, I
to
forgot
the
about
viewer. I couldn't pronounce it for the life of me.
Noord-Brabant. I will try.
Yeah, we'll say I said it. So yeah, Occitania, if you are not already familiar with the region, is basically a region in France, in southern France, mostly, in which the main export, the main attract to it is the aeronautic industry in there. Notably, you've got the big hitters of Europe, such as Airbus, which are based in Toulouse mostly. You've got quite a lot of other companies, which may be, for example, working in IT, engineering, in maintenance, repairs of aircraft interiors, in, for example, avionics and electronic systems, in metallurgy, mechanical engineering, a lot of stuff. It's a very big industrial heartland, to say so.
And this is part when I will say that I'm really proud of Europe because, other places, the US, did really outsource their manufacturing to other places. We didn't in as much of a quantity.
I mean, I couldn't speak for the US specifically, but I can tell you that the policy of France, especially since Macron came back to power, has been a reindustrialization because ever since Mitterrand, we basically have been on a path of deindustrialization, which in the long run really bit us in the ass. So right now, um, from 2017 up to 2030, we are on a reindustrialization path, and the buzzing activity of Occitanie is at the forefront of it in a way, because it's the most one of the region which benefit the most from the subsidiary system that is destined to bring in venture capital and other industries. We don't even have specifically aeronautics. You've got new space industries in there as well. You've got a lot of manufacturing industries. The main attraction when it comes to Occitanie specifically is that it's literally a worldwide aeronautical innovation clusters. If I go by the link that I sent you, it's the #1 civil aeronautics region in the world with about 655 aeronautical companies, with a lot of global production leaders such as Airbus, ATR, which have both their global HQ there, with Daher and Aerospace Valley. So yeah, the biggest attraction, if I go by what the industrial says, is that the main factor for that that you have to be able to get a skilled workforce that can travel reasonably fast, which is readily accessible over a larger area, and with a lot of infrastructure to reduce production costs, transportation costs, and yeah, that's a big boost, a big.
Yeah, so when it comes to that, let's say your region reminds me a lot of Lower Silesia.
Oh man, you're getting more and more similar.
Yeah, like I know that like we are a big manufacturer of batteries, we are a big manufacturer of airplane parts and car parts. We're just a big manufacturer of everything. And everything of that is high technology. Like you need to have a high technology base to even consider, you know, trying to set up a company here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You will have issues finding low skilled workers, which by the way, Amazon does. Like Amazon. That's it. Because you know, like for everything else, you have a whole industry here. And apparently it's rare. And when I looked up other regions of the EU, yep, it's rare.
I mean, yeah, when you go on an industrial scale necessary to do mass production, there's not a lot of countries in Europe which are still maintaining this level of production.
Yep. And you know, like here, you know, especially with the batch, like this is in another plant because we already had a plant of LG display that probably did manufacture the LCD in your TV.
I wouldn't be surprised, to be honest.
We have a lot of cooperation with South Korea here. So, you know, and probably the LCD panel in your TV was actually manufactured by. So, there is that.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I have a Philips TV, but Philips nowadays is just an integration brand. So, you know, like the panel in my TV is from here. Like literally from here. We have lots of outlets. So if you buy your TV on cheap, message me.
Yeah, you heard it here, folks.
I mean, it will have a few defects, by the way. Not, you know, falling off the plate type of things. They will have some defects, but, you know, like, come on.
Hey, Peter, you needed a TV, right?
We can ship it to you. Probably.
That might be a little expensive for you. I'm on the other side of the ocean, at least for now.
Yeah, might still be cheaper. Know what I mean?
We'll send
Who
it by
knows?
drone.
Maybe next time in Europe, I'll pick it up.
Yeah, something like that. We can send it to you, but you know, like seriously, I really love the opportunity. You know, like my friend was actually working in a retail shop that did actually sell those TVs that didn't get the mark. He had lots of buyers because it's usually, you know, like he did sell OLEDs that are usually like 10K or something in Europe. So what did he sell was like 5K Euro TV, the same as you can find, but it had a defect on the outside of the panel. I mean, in the panel, but you know, like outside regions, which you don't really look at, right? If you have a 65-inch.
Not really.
Exactly. And he could hook me up with something, like literally. I bought from him so many TVs for my family because it was like a slight discoloration in this region. Things like that.
Okay.
That's what you get with a huge manufacturing base, you know?
That is interesting. I'm learning something when you say that. I'm learning something.
You know, like, because, you know, like, this cannot be sold at a full price. But still, not selling it at all would be a waste, right?
Absolutely. I mean, if you can have something for free, well, why not? So,
Not for free, it still costs you money, but half the price, man. How you can not
simply,
go for that?
yeah.
Yeah, that was basically the whole idea. We have lots of specialized shops like that. For example, I had a TV backlight exchange for 50 euros. So, you know, you save a whole ass TV. And for 50 euros, you just get that. It's crazy.
Okay. I haven't had that yet, but I'll have to look for it, maybe. It would be rather more in the south, but I'll look for a new, if I can have some niche offers.
Shop regional, all I'm saying. Because seriously, you can have so much of it. To be clear, like, I can afford the full price TV. I have one right now. But you know, in the past when I was renting another place, I didn't really mind. It was on, like, there was a defect and you could only see it from above, right? So I mounted it on the wall. It was great. Like, honestly, the TV here is usually part of the experience. TVs are very, very cheap. So that's the manufacturing edge you have.
Yep.
And you know, like, definitely when it comes to like airplane parts, for example, right? Region. There are definitely shops that get those subpar parts and turn it into regular parts. I'm not talking about engine parts. You know what I mean? But still, there are lots of things when you can just iron out the defect and still sell it.
When I got to the Airbus HQ, I remember something about sending non-standard parts for how did they call it already? Basically for
Refurbishment.
yeah, something like that was it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's that. You just have a person to come over that part, figure out what's exactly wrong with it, and repair that. And you know, that's actually as good as you can get, honestly. Because why it should go to waste? I think like a lot of people have very adversarial reaction to repaired parts. When in case, like, it's still meeting the specifications for a new part. So why would you care?
Yep. If it works as good as new, why care?
Exactly. Lots of shops like that did pop up here, and I'm sure this is right for your region as well.
Yeah, of course. The manufacturing base is so large that you can certainly find such a thing. Absolutely.
Okay, so an hour passed. We didn't get to my region. We'll figure that out next time. No worries. We'll have more.
Don't worry.
Let's conclude on to. We had a guest that didn't make it. By the way, when it comes to their Mumble setup, by the way, we use Mumble. That's an issue I will try to that. See you guys later.
Bye.
Bye bye.